Konen, Montana, 28 years old, married, no kids yet, two dogs. Just moved out to Columbus, Ohio. So I'm kind of on like a little permanent travel trip, if you will, opening up an office next week. And it's going to be awesome, man.
100% Columbus, Ohio. I know you did a bunch of travel trips there, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Travel trips are key.
Well, congrats on that, man. Two dogs, you need to step it up, bro. We got 4 dogs, so.
I know, I got to get on your level.
Well, hey, man, again, we appreciate you having you on. And we just, for the team, I kind of wanted to ask, first off, dude, how did you come out the gate swinging like you did? Because I don't know if you've ever paid less than like 20 grand, like ever with FFL. But like, what did the learning curve look like with you with FFL, and kind of what's your background? Did you have a bunch of insurance background, or how did it come out with FFL?
Yeah, so I was in insurance before, but I think the main reason that I got started out so fast is just because I followed the blueprint. Plain and simple. Literally anybody can do it. I didn't second guess a word that Easton said. He said start investing, $1,500, $2,000 a week in leads, which scared the crap out of me. But I understood, the work ethic and all that, believed in myself a little bit. And, it was a lot of long dial days. And I just decided that I wanted to learn kind of as I went through it, fall down, scuff my knees, keep getting back up, ask a lot of questions, apply the information that I was getting, when I did fall down. And it's been great so far. I think that's the best way to learn.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And a lot of people, I think we just, we don't buy into that system like as fast as we should. And it hurts longer, right? Because like the longer it takes to buy into the FFL system, the more you're going to be kind of in that, that pain circle, like you're not going to get out of it. So can you kind of talk about your lead flow? Like how quick did you get to that 1,000, 1,500, $2,000 a week? Because issue paying 100 grand a month, like that's, dude, that you're killing it, but that's a lot of lead flow. That's a lot of money spent on leads,
Yep. So right away, my very first week, I think I only invested like $1,000. And again, I was not in a position to do that at that time by any means. It scared me. I had rent due in, a week and a half. So I knew I had to go out and bust it. Easton also invested, $500 into me with some tips, tricks, and closers leads, and was able to turn that $1,000 investment into, I think the first check was like $6,000, and then just kept doing the same thing. I kept my lifestyle the exact same. I treated myself like a W-2 employee starting a new position, so I didn't pay myself a dime for 2 weeks, because that's kind of how it works. If you sign a W-2, you don't get paid for 2 weeks anyways.
Yep.
So I wanted to build up the funds, because it is your own business. And you need to treat it like an engine or like a vehicle, if you will. You need gasoline to be able to go from point A to point B, just like you need capital over here to be able to fund your business, right? So I treated it just like that, and have just kind of been steadily increasing that lead flow ever since. Locking out some direct mail because you have some accountability there. You never know when it's going to hit you, so you always got to keep working. Working final expense leads, literally any lead that's in the CRM. There'll be a point in time where when you're in the house, every lead is kind of like the same, if you will. You're going to be hitting on very similar points and all that. Of course, some leads are a little bit harder to dial on the phones, but it also kind of sharpens the toolkit a little bit too.
Yep.
So definitely build up to it.
100%, man. And would you say like from your $6,000 that you got deposited off of that first lead order, what did you take any time off? Like, did you kind of, or were you kind of like, dude, this is easy. Like I can really 10X this real quick.
Really? Cause I was married at the time, and I'm still married, but it was
what happened?
Yeah, it was a fresh marriage, and, starting out a new business. I left an insurance job where I was making like $10,000 a month easy. So that was a very secure thing. So I really wanted to prove to her and bust it open, like, hey, we are going to be in a great position here. So I did show her the bank account, and I showed her how much I was investing again, and then showed her the bank account, a week later, and kept doing it. And I think there was only about 3 weeks there where she was like, okay, let's rip it. Let's turn and burn.
I think, guys, if you've watched Easton Padden's podcast, like he didn't tell his wife how bad it was or how good it was, because he was going more in credit card debt. because he couldn't close. Like he just couldn't close for like his first 40 appointments. And his wife, he'd come home and he's like, you know, my card would be maxed out and she'd be like, how's your day, babe? And he's like, great. But he's like, if I told her the truth, like we wouldn't be here today. Right. So I think, you know, a lot of people, Jake, can you kind of talk about, you know, locking out direct mail, like what that kind of does to your mentality? Because I would say legit 90% of our team only works CRM, which is awesome, but there's not as much accountability. It doesn't keep us working. It doesn't keep, you know, we got to go make money, because if we're getting billed, like the rent's coming, right, which is our leads, we got to go work. So can you kind of talk about what that did for your mentality, and you know, what's your kind of lead flow look like now?
Sure. I think it's a great thing to do, whether it's, you know, final expense direct mail or mortgage direct mail, because the hardest thing, at least for me and some of the new agents I'm working with right now, is actually, you know, entering in your account information a couple of times a week and actually clicking send and purchase. Whereas with a subscription, you know, you lock out specific counties, and I would definitely recommend doing that in a travel trip, by the way, so you can erase all your distractions. But when you lock out a mortgage subscription, there's nothing that you can really do. I mean, when they come in, your card's going to get hit. You have to keep working. But then that's all. I mean, if you look at it from a business perspective, that's consistent lead flow, you know, and nobody else can get those leads but you. So I think that's just a huge accountability test for everybody. You know, if you want to go to the next level, I think everybody should do it. I highly recommend it, as well as supplementing with all the other lead sources that we do have. Yeah. And then the second part of that, Josh, that was what does lead flow look like now?
Yeah. Like how much, what's your, are you working all direct mail? Do you get any instance, or like when you go to, I know you're in Ohio now, but when you didn't live in Ohio, was it all just direct mail, mortgage, and FEX going to your travel trips?
So, I mean, in Montana, there's not a ton of people, right? There's like 6 or 7 people for every like 7 square miles of the state, and not a lot of people, right? So I locked out every direct mail component that I could, because I needed as many leads as I possibly could have, right? And then I was also working Facebook final expense. I was working every single lead in the CRM, because again, there wasn't that many. I was doing a lot of travel trips, you know, literally going everywhere to get my hands on leads, traveling to the leads. But right now, yes, I have several counties locked out across the country for direct mail, mortgage, and direct mail final expense. I love dialing direct mail final expense, and it's not as big of a cost. You know, those are only like $36 a piece instead of like between 56 and 82. And they're a super straightforward, seamless dial and seamless appointment. So I really like working those things. I would say initially off, you know, starting off like that $2,000, you know, it's kind of escalated. I'd say per week, you know, I could spend anywhere from between 35 to, I mean, upwards of like 5,000 sometimes.
You're a beast, dude. Heck yeah. I mean, well, that's why you're getting your results you're getting, you know, because it's like if the bills consistently are coming in and you already have the like the training and the mindset and everything to go with it, dude, it's almost easier, right? Like the more leads that are coming in, it's almost like, hey man, I got billed this, like I'm just gonna go work. I'm gonna go write 40,000 this week. And it's like you, Easton, and Brittany like are leading from the front with the whole company with this, and all on one team, which is nuts. I ask Zach all the time. I'm like, dude, where did you guys go to school? Like, where did you find these people? Like, you know, but it's really, you guys are just all running the same play. There's no secret, right? Yep. It's really just getting enough cash flow, guys, to locking out that area, you know. And I'm sure it was scary for Jake, just like everybody else, like, right? Like spent more than we're spending mortgage payments on leads in a week. You know, that sounds nuts, but when you go right 10 to 30,000 each week, guys, how nuts is that? You know, it's just not that deep. So Jake, can you kind of, for people that are like, dude, I got some extra cash that I want to go invest into direct mail, FEX or mortgage. How did you pick out the areas you wanted to travel?
I looked up like average monthly income in certain areas. I looked up, just population overall, and just places that I wouldn't mind traveling to. You know, honestly, Ohio wasn't the top of my list, you know, first off, just looking in it there, but there was so much that I could lock out here and control. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm locking down the whole state. Let's go.
Yep. In Ohio, the whole state?
A lot. Yeah. Lots of the bigger stuff for sure.
So guys, don't look at Ohio. Jake's got it all. It's crazy though, because actually we have some guys on the team that are running travel trips right now in Ohio, but all CRM. So they're still gonna kill it, but it's like it's nuts to just say like, dude, I have the whole state. Like, good luck. You know, that's funny. Like we had Hawaii, but there's only like 3 vendors. But that's nuts, dude.
That's such a sweet place to travel. I'm jealous.
Yeah, we got lucky with that one. But outside, like say you're looking at the CRM, would you base it off of like the CRM availability, like the hotspots, or would you kind of, again, you're looking at average income, average population? Is that all kind of go into the mix?
All that goes into the mix. I mean, all the above, because I mean, ideally, I wanted to lock out as much as I could in a very, I mean, short distance, or even like statewide. And there was a ton of leads out here in Ohio. But then also, if you're looking at like the instant internet updates, Ohio always has a couple counties that are like really high on the list. Yep. So I wanted to come out here and set an agency up so that all of the agents could stay busy, just with the lead flow, and then it's sandwiched, right in between Indiana, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, Kentucky, West Virginia. There's so much lead availability. So to everybody, I would say, yeah, look at the CRM, and then wherever the hotspots are, just go to the leads. Just be a heat-seeking missile to the leads.
Yep, 100%. Now, I talked to Brittany. She was in the Vegas office the other day, and she was like, yeah, I dial at 7:30 and I'm done by 9:30. And I was like, PM? And she's like, no, AM. And I'm like, dude, there's no way. Like, now, can you, I was shook, right? And then I heard Zach talking to her on the phone one day, and he was like, imagine if you went all in. And I was like, she just wrote 87,000 last month. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Can you kind of talk about having these leads? What does that do for your dial days? Like, are you on the phone for 14 hours, or are you just like, is it a lot smoother, a lot faster? What does that look like on dial days for you?
Lots of that just comes with reps. I mean, I'd be straight up lying to your face if I didn't say I was probably one of the worst dialers in the company when I started. My dial days were like literally 12 hours straight, like 8 to 8. I remember a couple of times, starting a dial day at 7:30 in the morning, taking a very minimal break around lunchtime, looking at how many dials I made versus how many appointments I had. It was really, really bad, and then ending the dial day at like 9:15. So I think it's just like anything else, like if you're training for a sport, you want to get bigger, faster, stronger. It's just a repetitions thing. And then eventually, that the muscles are going to catch up, the muscle fibers are going to tear and then come back stronger than ever. Same thing with on the phone. Just having that flow, consistent flow a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, Brittany is an absolute stud. I mean, she can do just like what Easton can do, and book like 16 appointments in like a 2-hour time period, which is insane. So she's definitely not lying when she says that. Yeah. But yeah, it just comes with reps.
Yeah.
Got to practice all the time.
Yeah. Is there a specific like time you start every dial day? And then what does your zones look like when you're doing your dials?
I love traveling ahead of time. So like if I'm in Mountain Standard Time, if I'm in Montana coming back to Ohio, I can start dialing at 5:30 in the morning, which is a beautiful thing. So take all that into account. I was in Vegas one time and then we're recording a couple of things and then coming back out to Ohio. So I was 2 time zones away. So I could start dialing at 4:30 in the morning before I flew out to come out here, so definitely be cognizant of that. But I mean, it's kind of like a little cheat code. Like nothing that we do is really fancy, it's just like hard work. And then we're really good at buying leads. That's kind of the big secret right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've noticed just being around Zach more in the Vegas office, like there's no secrets. Like he's so basic and he's so like straightforward with everybody. And just like you guys with your team, buy leads, because it's like the leaderboard, it's not by accident, right? You don't just get those big numbers by accident. It's the people buying the most leads, seeing the most people. So when you're dialing, you say you start like, it's kind of like working out, like the people that are successful and like have the best rhythm. Like if you're getting up at 5:30 to dial, like you're going to be successful before 8 a.m. You already got 10 appointments. You know what I mean? And how's the rest of the day feel if you got 10 appointments by 8 a.m. when everybody else is just starting to dial?
There's just a lot more you can accomplish. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have agents that you can bring in. I mean, maybe they're a little bit apprehensive about jumping on the live dials right away with everybody else. So when you finish your dials up, especially if you can do it that quick, you have a lot of time to spend with all your other agents, with your staff, listen to how they're doing interviews, listen to how your agents are booking appointments, giving them little tips and tricks and stuff like that. being able to jump on stuff like this and not feeling super anxious, like I got to get back and dial because I don't have any appointments. I think that's the most fundamental thing with our business, is being super good on the phones. Cause I mean, like you've heard Matt Smith say it before, everyone has like a people problem, and that comes from the phone. We just don't get in front of enough people, or enough people at least to generate the type of income that we need on a consistent basis. And that really erases kind of everything. Just comes back to the phones.
Dang, dude. Now when you go run, do you do like the power weekends like Easton? Like, will you run all weekend?
I love doing power weekends because not a lot of people like to run on Sundays.
Yep.
I mean, you can make a 4-week month, a 5-week month if you do some power weekends in there every single month, right? So just start like a power weekend, just for you guys that don't know, that's running, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, full tilt, so like 25 appointments, maybe 28 jam-packed into 3 days. And then you still have 2 full days left. If come back on Monday, do the same thing for Tuesday, Wednesday. So if you really want to spike your production up, just add an extra run day into your schedule. Everyone has the ability to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to get more leads for that. I mean, just kind of the common theme, like what we've been talking about here.
Yep. 100%. Now let's say, Jake, they lock out a county, right? Or a couple counties in an area. How many leads, like direct mail, would you want to wait until you had before you go to that area to go work them?
I think 20 is solid.
Okay.
Because then you can all if you have your schedule planned out and you're going to go to X location in a week, you can also place an order for some Facebook final expense stuff. You can be, hunting in the CRM about a week's time before you head out there. So you make sure that your travel trip is 100% worth it. And it's only going to be worth it if you do have enough leads and book enough appointments.
Yeah. And guys, I think that if you lock out an area, right, guys, say, a lot of people were going to run CRM leads, a travel trip, which is awesome. But imagine having 20 to 30 mailers that are hot. No one's seen them. No one's talked to them. And you're able to, I mean, out of those, Jake, say you got 20, how many are you probably booking on the phones?
I mean, the direct mail stuff, if someone takes the time to actually like get a piece of mail, read it, fill out their own personal information and mail it back in, the intent's, pretty high, at least in my opinion. Yep. So I think anybody can get to the point to where they're booking at least 50% of those, if not 75% of those. Or if you're like cut from the same cloth as Brittany and Easton, you might be booking like 80 to 85.
And it's all repetition, and if you've heard Easton, it's all repetition.
Yep.
Real quick, what vendors do you like to use for FB? Like what's some that you've used in the past that you like to use?
I love Game Time.
Game Time leads.
That's my go-to right there. I also used Happy Agents a ton. I still reference to them sometimes. Mm-hmm. And Tips, Tricks, and Closers.
Yeah,
those are probably my top 3 right there.
Perfect. And how many days in advance are you purchasing those to go run? Like say you're in Montana, you're going to Ohio. How many days in advance?
I'm going to go a week in advance.
Okay.
Just so I can make sure they're all absolutely filled up.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're doing a travel trip and you're kind of new to it, because those do take a little bit of time to come in, especially if you're placing a larger order. Mm-hmm. Definitely give it enough time to make sure that those leads are all going to be available for you.
Yeah. So guys, he's having CRM leads are amazing, right? They're super inexpensive. There's a lot of availability if you're on a travel trip, but he's having 3 different lead types: Facebook, CRM, and direct mail. Guys, it's a lot harder to fail if you've got every lead coming in a certain area. You're hitting all fronts. And if the phones are, you're not spending as much time on the phones, you're spending more time sitting with families. So I think that's something we all need to implement, guys. Pick out an area, get 20 to 30 leads and just go. It's not that hard because you can supplement that with all the leads in the CRM and Facebook. Jake, we would be remiss if we didn't get some in-home tips. What are some things that you do in-home that people need to know that they're not doing? Or what do you do different that people aren't doing?
I don't think I do a lot of stuff, truly different. I'm just pretty structured in the house. I had to implement that really early on because I'm kind of like all over the place a little bit, but I can't remember who I received the tip from. It was probably Easton, and he got it from somebody else. But you got to have structure when you're doing stuff like this, right? Or else you're not going to know what goes wrong, or more importantly, what goes right, so you can replicate it. Yep. My in-home is so simple. I walk in there, I set down my license on the table. I don't have anything out of my bag. And then the whole, like I used to set in a like an analog army watch. I'd look at it and I'd set a stopwatch for 10 minutes. And I would just spend the first 10 minutes when I was in the house. My whole goal of that first 10 minutes, Josh, is to have you basically say, hey, Jake, that's why you're here. Like, stop asking me so many questions. Like, you're here for that. So if it's a final expense lead, like, and I'm sitting down with a husband and wife, hey, Josh, what'd you fill this form out for? Say, like, I want to see the price. It's like, okay, yeah, this has a price, but what do you want the coverage for? It's like, okay, well, I just don't want my wife to have to pay for burial. We're kind of in a pinch right now financially. There's no way she has $10,000 just laying around. Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. And then also, is your wife going to be losing some income as well if something happens to you? Yes. Okay. And do you guys have a mortgage as well that you have to take care of? Yes. Okay. Is she going to be forced to move out of that house if something happens to you? On top of paying for your burial and on top of having her income get cut in half? Okay, got it. I'm assuming that's why I'm here. Okay, cool. And then I always ask people about their families as well up front. Because like if it's a single guy, a single gal, a widow, whatever, someone is going to be negatively impacted financially for their lack of planning or lack of decision making. So I want to figure out who the beneficiary is right away. And if they're not sitting right next to you on the table, who's the beneficiary of this policy? Who would have to pay for this? Or who would be most morally obligated to pay for this if you didn't have something in place?
Yeesh. See, you say that one more time, Jake? A lot of people are writing that down.
Who would be morally obligated to help pay for your burial if something happened to you? It's going to be one of their kids or one of their friends or whatever. You'll figure out who the most important person is in their life just by that question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's your beneficiary. Okay, got it. So if you didn't get this, like ask about what type of job their beneficiary has. Do they have family? Do they have bills of their own? If their beneficiary is a lawyer, like a world famous lawyer versus, someone that's a barista at a Starbucks, there's a huge difference in income right there. So if someone's a barista at Starbucks and you get down to showing price, they probably don't have $10,000 laying around. So you need to bring that into the mix. Maybe they're making like $60,000 a year working as a teller at a bank, and they're tenured and all that good stuff. But so they're making decent money, but then they have 3 kids at home and they have a mortgage. They still don't have $10,000 just laying around. So figuring out who the beneficiary is and their background is going to give you a lot of leverage when you come to showing numbers.
Dude, real quick. I've never done that in a home, guys. I'm be honest, never done that. And I think that's gold because a lot of people, they don't care about themselves, right? Once I'm gone, I'm gone. But if you start painting the picture for what it looks like for their daughter that lives 2 states away, that has a child, single mom that, can't miss, 6 days because if I pass away, guys, if they start thinking about their beneficiary and paint that picture of how hard it would be financially, emotionally, and just the time, that's huge. And dude, I'll be honest, I've never done that. And that's gold. So I hope everybody picked that up.
But I mean, once we get to that point where Josh, you tell me, hey, Jake, that's why you're here. Like I said, I can condense that now into like 5 minutes. Sometimes it's, 7 or 8, but I mean, give yourself 10 minutes to learn about the person that you're sitting down with, treat them like they're a family member. And then I would just tell you, hey, Josh, we're going to run through this form. I'm going to touch on your finances, any outstanding debts, and your health. Are you okay with that? And then I'm going to give you some options. That's literally the whole structure of my in-home right there.
Wow. Not that deep, right?
No.
Wow. I know you're an Americo guy, like all the other top producers, but how do you kind of show pricing for, I know that's based off, their finances and what they got coming in and going out, but how do you kind of structure that when you're showing prices?
So I think, if you guys are walking to a house and you're selling off price all the time, you're always going to lose off price too. You got to sell off value. So when you're showing numbers, show them how to spend the money. Right. So back to the husband and wife, we need $10,000 starting out to pay for burial because Mary doesn't have that sitting around. But then also she's losing $2,000 a month and the mortgage is $1,200 a month. So if I'm showing $30,000, I'm going to attach that $30,000. I'm going to break it out incrementally and attach it to a specific purpose. And I'm not even talking about price yet. So Josh, this $30,000, 10 of it is to pay for your burial if something happens unexpectedly. Okay, another 10 is going to be 5 months of income replacement directly for Mary so she can keep her lifestyle the exact same so she doesn't have the financial rug ripped out from underneath of her feet. The other $10,000 is going to be to pay for your mortgage, for 4.5 to 5 months until Mary figures out if she wants to stay in the house or sell the house, get the equity, use a small percentage of that as a down payment on another property, to account for, another cheaper property to account for her loss of income and make her new lifestyle a little bit more affordable for her. To do that, that's going to cost you, $393 a month. If you want to do $20,000, that's 10,000 for burial, and then that's 10,000 for the same purpose, right? But now, since we don't have that additional 10 for income replacement, that's just going to be to buy time for Mary on the house. Does that make sense, Josh?
100%.
Just like showing you show them what it would do. Don't just show them the price. You guys are going to lose that, 9 times out of 10.
Again, guys, number 1, burial. Number 2, income replacement. And number 3, mortgage or rent. That's, dude, again, gold. What if you're showing, you want to show high, right? We're obligated to show you the max you can qualify for. If we break down that max, guys, now it makes sense. Instead of saying, well, my cremation only cost me $3,000, I only need like 5, to move me and get cremated. But if we're plugging that in, well, your beneficiary needs this. Your beneficiary is going to need the income replacement, is going to need the mortgage or rent paid for. They're losing your income. Dude, gold. Go on. I won't interrupt you again.
Some of the tougher ones is like when you're dealing with a single guy or single gal, right? And they just want to pay for burial. And let's just say maybe it's, cremation, basic cremation, Josh, we're going to round up and we're going to call that $5,000, with inflation. All those guys are competing, just like everybody else. So if someone raises their price, everyone is. So we'll call that $5,000. Okay. But now you already said your daughter, Mary, is going to be the beneficiary here. She has her kids and all that stuff. You have this house. She's going to have to get everything moved out of it, but she still has all her bills to take care of. So she's going to have to work. So let's get her hired a moving crew and a cleaning crew to get everything cleaned up and out of your rental, and then if there's any additional stuff to close your lease out, let's put an additional $5,000 there for that purpose. Does that make sense? Just to ease the path for Mary a little bit. Okay. And then you said you don't really want to have a big service, but what about, maybe a celebration of life where your surrounding family gets to come out, they have their hotels paid for, airfare paid for, and all that stuff, paid for. So they just get to come out and celebrate you and come together as a family again. Is that something you're interested in as well? Okay, there's another $5,000 for that. And then is there any charities that you would like to donate to on top of that? Do you go to church? If someone has like pets or anything like that, maybe they can donate to like an animal hospital, whatever, and you can show them as well how to put that all in their will. But you're attaching specific policy face values to specific purposes. That's when people buy, because they get it, and then they're like, well, hey, how do I make sure all this money is going to this specific, spot? It's like, you trust Mary, right? She's your beneficiary. Okay, so here's what we're going to do is I'm going to leave this with you. Go to mywill.com. You can chart out everything that money is intended for, that Mary's going to be inheriting, and then you can kind of call your shots from the grave, if you will.
Wow. Man, you've said stuff that I haven't heard before, like legit, because a lot of people, we just want to, get them approved. We got you approved. Let's show you the plan. Which one do you want? Which one makes sense financially? But if you're really digging into all that stuff before you even get into that, like, because you could go over and explain what the money is going to break out to before even showing an amount, right? Like exactly. A showing price. Because it's like, if we're doing that, guys, building all that value on the front end, like the price makes sense. Like the $392 for $30,000, that makes a lot more sense than just saying, well, this is the most we can get you. It's $392. 25 is $297. Which one would work better for you? Well, now there's a why behind the what, right? If we're showing that 30, there's so much more value behind that 30 than that 15. That can only cover burial and 3 months of mortgage payments.
Yep.
Gold. Wow. Real quick, Jake, I'll get you out of your last one. Do you do the same thing with like a mortgage protection? Like, do you break that cost out, or are you just kind of looking to cover, how do you kind of break that down for mortgage protection?
I mean, of course, it kind of depends on like a case to case basis. The big ones I think are like when, you know, kids get involved, you know, and there's always going to be an income disparity, even if it's minimal, you know, between a husband and a wife with kids. So, I mean, show them how much money they would be losing. And then, of course, the primary objective is to pay the house off, or at least a large portion of it. So we're going to take care of that first, you know, and then second, we're also going to take care of income replacement. And then you have 4 kids, you know, the oldest one is 10 years old. The youngest one is 2. So there's at least, you know, let's plan for 18 years where they're still going to be in the house. So let's plan for the mortgage, let's plan for income replacement, and let's plan for the additional costs as kids grow up. You know, they need new shoes every single year. Doctor's visits are going to get more expensive. They're going to be in various sports and various activities because they got to try everything out to be able to figure out what they're good at and what they like. You know, stuff like that. Attach all of that to a specific purpose. And none of that, Josh, is like complicated. I mean, we all know that.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, just think about your own family dynamic growing up and how you could relate the face value of your policy to your own, you know, your own stuff.
Wow. Mortgage, income replacement, and then how do you kind of talk about the kids, like how much that's going to cost them? Say I have 2 kids, they're 6 and 8. Like how are you going to say that? Like till they're 18, they need income as well to get, you know, how do you kind of put that out in words?
I mean, you can use funny stuff, man. I mean, because lots of the stuff we do in the home, if you're like too serious, I mean, just break it up a little bit with some humor. Let's just call it like childcare inflation, you know, and lots of people haven't heard that before. So they're going to be like, what is that? Explain it to them.
Yep.
Kids are growing. They're going to eat more. They're getting bigger. School's getting more expensive. Their equipment for sports are getting more expensive. They're going to be traveling more for sports. Wow. They're going to be traveling more for school activities, you know, just childcare, inflation, you know, whatever. Let's plan additional for that. You know, let's say per kid, let's go 25,000. That's $100,000. You owe $150,000 on the mortgage, so we're at 250. And now we have income replacement. How many years of that do we want to, you know, provide for your wife? You know, she's losing $60,000 a year if something happens to you. Okay, so we're at 310 if that's an additional year on top of everything else. And then if we want more on top of that, we're going to be looking at 370 for the whole enchilada. You know, so I'm literally going to show that regardless of what the price is. I'm going to show 370, 310, and then the other package deal. And that's exactly how I show the numbers. I'm writing it out. Here's what 370 is going to do. Boom, boom, boom. Here's what 310 is going to do. 2 bullet points. And then here's what, you know, the rest is going to do. And that's just to pay the house off.
Wow, dude. And you keep the same demeanor, kind of like how you're explaining it to me. Are you kind of this even keel throughout the whole home as well?
Yep.
Wow, dude. Well, real quick, bro, like I learned a lot myself, like legit. These are things like I could go into the field tomorrow and implement right away. And I think our premiums could double just based off of those things, building more value into why we're showing the numbers we're showing. You know, guys, we sit on some mortgage protection instead of they owe 80 grand. Like, guys, there's a lot more to cover besides just the 80 grand house to make it make sense for them. Right. Because sometimes it's like, well, I don't need 80, like we're not going to stay here. But if we're talking about the loss of income, the income replacement, and the child care inflation, dude, gold. So, dude, I appreciate you so much. Like, this has been amazing. We got 180 people on the call, and I think everybody learned a lot. So I appreciate you getting on, Jake. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. You guys are crushing it, by the way. Keep growing. It's inspiring. I'm watching you guys, hoping that the agency gets up to your guys' you know, tilt here soon. Keep it up.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you, man.
Have a good one, guys.